I hope you enjoy my stories. Instead of just clicking thumbs down, please comment and share how we can do better. If you do like our video, then please like and subscribe.
Revenge on my neighbors for not keeping the floor common area clear.
So I live in an apartment complex, and recently a new family moved in. We have a pretty narrow hallway, just wide enough for 2 people to walk together. Now these people have 2 children. Both of them throw their shoes randomly in the hallway. I mostly just kick them, sometimes down the floor, so that they keep the inconvenience of climbing down
a flight of stairs to get them.
The annoying part is they do the same with their bicycles.
Now these are the bulky ones with the training wheels, 2 of them. I've asked them to keep the cycles inside their house, and it's a fire hazard too, not a major one.
We live on the 1st floor, and my family doesn't actually have to cross the cycles or their house to get to the stairs, but I was annoyed regardless of that fact. Now, every time I see their cycles in the hallway, I carry them and keep them in their parking, which is about 5 minutes away. But I enjoy being petty.
Could I have just warned them again? Yes. Would they have paid heed? No. Plus, it's a lot more fun to see them having to get the cycles back.
This may be just my opinion, but I think that guy is just another version of a Karen.
The amount of effort he goes through just to screw with a couple of kids that I would guess are around 5 to 7 years old.
Should their bikes be left in the hallway?
No, however, it is up to the parents to deal with it.
My thing is the amount of joy he gets from screwing with kids. Teaching my mother a lesson. Bit of background. My mother is extremely dramatic and emotionally manipulative.
Out of her 3 children, I have 42 female, and the only one who still speaks to her. She's also very particular about her name.
She abhors anyone shortening or messing around with her name.
Christine. Anyone who calls or Chris or Chrissy, anything like that, is subjected to a tongue lashing and mild hysterics. I have a son, 4, who she often claims is her favorite.
She has 3 other grandsons, so I hate it that she does this, and am pregnant with my 2nd child. I talked to my mother about our name choices, Ash or Morgan, and she told me she hated them and tried to persuade us to choose something else. I named our 1st child, and it's important to my husband that he names the next one, so I'd like to let him even if they're not my favorite names. I don't think grandparents get a choice.
So my mother told me outright that if we choose these names, she won't use them, and will pick a name of her own to call the baby, and will only refer to him by her choice of name.
So I lost my patience.
I told her that if she wanted to do that, she'd face 2 consequences.
1, she'll likely never get to speak to the new child. 2, I will teach both of my kids to call her Grandma Chrissy.
She's never mentioned names since.
Revenge on school, playing the same song on repeat between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. for 10 days. Firstly, I live in a European country where healthcare is publicly funded.
Second, I'm a nurse. Think emergency services. I make $45,000 a year and have to work all holidays. Third, I work nights. This college right next to me has this thing every spring where they build floats and do a parade.
I'm all for it. Let the kids have fun.
They, however, pick a horrible song and blast it in the parking lot, which is right next to our building, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day for 10 days straight.
After a few days, I was desperate for sleep. That week, the weather was beautiful, people were drinking heavily, and many of these required emergency care, on top of all the usual cardiac arrest shootings and whatnot.
I closed the window and died from the heat, but I could still hear it.
I had the windows closed and bought earplugs. I could still hear it.
I slept 2 hours before my 10-hour shifts. I called the college and asked to talk to the person in charge, left my details, but no one got back to me.
I called again the next day and asked to talk to person in charge, finally get the man on the line.
I explained my problem and asked if they could do something about the volume or change the song.
He laughed and said it was tradition.
I said I wasn't able to work if I couldn't sleep, and asked who was going to pay for my loss of income. He answered that he already did that by paying tax. I asked him a few things about their permits, asked him if he wanted things to go this way.
He said yes.
I called the police, not emergency number, explained the situation, and that he'd said that he was the one paying me my wages. The police did not like that since they get to hear the same thing all the time. Then I referenced a new law about public disturbing with music.
The next day, the music was way down.
The next year I couldn't hear it unless I went outside and stood completely still. Turns out I ruined a 50-year-old tradition and my bitch walk got an extra bounce.
Do not mess with a sleep-deprived nurse. Edit to add, if he hadn't pulled the "I pay your wages" and laughed, I wouldn't have been so furious that I called the police. The college kids can actually thank him. Listen to your kids or get shamed.
My mother went through a Christian fundamentalist phase when I was a child and got really into those Christian parenting books. One thing recommended by these books was that you should, under no circumstances, go to your child when they call you, because you are the parent, and therefore the authority, so they have to come to you.
Because of course, children call for their parents because they're entitled brats, and not because they need help or anything.
So when I got my first period, I had no idea what it was.
Naturally, I assumed I was dying because there was blood everywhere.
So I called out for my mother. She was with a ladies' Bible study group in the living room and calls back across the house, "You have to come to me, remember?" I try again, but she refuses. So, still thinking I'm dying from like mysterious internal wounds or something, I take my panties off, pull my shorts back on, and go to the living room and drop my bloody pants in her lap.
She was horrifically embarrassed in front of all her church friends. Whisked me back off to the bathroom and sorted out the situation.
She also never pulled that, "You come to me because I'm the authority" shit again. Body shamer.
I went to a salon to accompany my sister. Then a customer arrived unannounced. This salon operates by schedule since it's always crowded.
And there she was making demands, even though she knew she wasn't scheduled for today. While waiting for her turn, she body shamed one of the workers, who I think she knew.
"Why are you so fat? Are you thriving on problems?" The worker didn't react, but it was evident on her face that she was offended.
Then, when it was the customer's turn, the worker who was body shamed was the one to assist her. It seemed like she took out her anger through the customer's ingrown removal. The customer was in constant pain because the worker did not make it easy for her. Ha 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 ha.
The customer said, "Isn't your cut too deep?"
"It hurts so much." The worker responded, "No ma'am, it's just that your ingrown is too deep." It was just so satisfying to see that there was a bit of revenge. I think it was deserved.
A whole neighbors put up their house for sale today, on my birthday.
My whole next-door neighbors who have repeatedly called the city about my property over the last couple years. The city inspector and zoning lead of my city have literally called them insane and have personally apologized to me over their actions. Kicked my dog, called the police on another neighbor's dog, stalked me when I walk my dog. Literally stare into my windows, email and text me, accusing me of things I've never done. Tried to rally other neighbors into hating me. This backfired epically.
Then put up their house for sale today on my birthday. Over the years, I've taken a few steps of petty revenges, such as played my music extra loud when they would be in the yard.
Allow my dog to poop in their front yard. Park my car in front of their house. They get pissed about this. It's a public street and have won every argument they've tried to call into the city.
Lately, I won a zoning argument they tried to call about, and the city gave me a permit to finish the work done on my house.
This literally was the last straw for them to move out of my neighborhood. Ironically, they put it up for sale today on my birthday.
Poetic justice at its finest.
Update. I went to the open house today with my fiancé and dad. The a-hole neighbors weren't there, but realtor of course was. She was very nice and encouraged us to sign the guest book. We all three happily obliged. I thanked her for posting the listing on my birthday, and it's the best birthday gift I've ever gotten.
She smiled and said she'd pass along my info and what I said to the owners. Additionally, there was another younger couple, very seriously looking at the house to buy. I encouraged them to do so, and told them about the neighbors and neighborhood. I really hope they buy it and move in. They said they love dogs. Petty revenge on bullying teacher.
This happened the last day of the school year. There was a bit of skylarking going on, and a couple of boys from year 10, 15 years old, decided to enact some revenge against a teacher who was a bit of a bully. He tended to pick on quieter and more introverted kids too, which didn't go down well with most of us.
Anyway, they got their hands on a large black balloon and filled it with chocolate milk. This teacher was an avid four-wheel driver and drove an old model Land Rover.
He never locked it either.
So they pushed the balloon right up underneath the clutch pedal and waited. At the end of the school day, the teacher was walking over to his car and wondering why there was a huge audience of boys to see him off. He had no idea what was coming. He was waving and grinning, wishing us all a happy Xmas and summer break. We are in Australia. Then he pressed the clutch in, and about 3 or 4 liters of chocolate milk poured out onto the floor of his car. It started leaking out through the floor onto the ground.
He just sat there with his head on the steering wheel for half a minute before slowly reversing out and driving sadly up the road. I have no idea whether he connected his behavior with this revenge, or whether he thought it was just another practical joke, which was a pretty common thing at that school at that time. It was a lovely petty revenge, I have to say.
Wish I had thought of it.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.